Hello and welcome back to Against the Storm Overexplained, where we are doing our second tutorial village. Press any key to start. Villagers with low resolve will start leaving, increasing the Queen's impatience. Keeping resolve exceptionally high will grant passive reputation over time. Satisfying your villagers' needs with complex foods, homes, and services will increase their resolve. We'll look at these in a minute. Each species has a different mix of needs. It's hard to please everyone all of the time. That's true. Farmers can plant only on farm fields, and those can only be built on fertile soil. Crops are planted in the first season, the drizzle, and harvested during the second, the clearance. I'm sure it's going to say it at some point, but during the storm, you still want people in those farms because they are essentially fertilizing the ground, making it more likely to get more out of the ground in the next season. Build a farm, harvest grain, serve some ale in a tavern. Sounds good to me. Again, I always like to start with a path around and then some housing, which I can't actually build right now. I keep forgetting that I'm still in the tutorial. I just have to do what they ask me to do. Small farm. So you can see there's a square around the farm that if you can find just the right spot, sometimes you can get a lot of land. I'm going to set it down right there. We are definitely still going to need a woodcutter's camp. Probably two. Our first order is to get 6 farm fields and 1 small farm. Farm fields are in the food tab here. And you mark it for the workers to take care of. Once again, humans are good at farming, so they have a bonus chance to get bonus materials. Our order is done. It's going to give us some barrels. Our next thing is we want to build 2 shelters, so hopefully we'll be able to get that recipe pretty quick. Bonus goods produced in the small farm, or 5 barrels per minute. I feel like the barrels that I just got are probably going to be sufficient for this tutorial, so in the interest of time, I will go ahead and choose farming tools. I need to assign more woodcutters. I can do that. Where are we cutting to? I guess we're going to cut into this grove here and this grove here. Reputation points. You gain reputation points in 3 different ways. By successfully completing orders, by exploring your surroundings, and by keeping your villagers happy. Orders are very straightforward. You always get at least 1 reputation point for completing them. To gain reputation for villagers' well-being, you have to increase their resolve so that it reaches the reputation threshold indicated by a blue line in the resolve bar. After that, they will start generating reputation points passively. With time, your villagers will become accustomed to their living conditions, and the reputation threshold will increase, forcing you to satisfy more complex needs. To acquire reputation from exploring, you will have to cut your way through the forest to dangerous or forbidden glades and complete the glade events located there. But beware, these events can be challenging at times or might require you to deliver special resources to complete them. Some perks or goods bought from traders can also increase your reputation. And again, reputation is how we win the game. So I'll go ahead and pick up the shelter blueprint. I hope I said this last video, but R rotates the building while you're holding it. There we go. I know I have a thing for pausing a lot. I hope it's not a problem. I'm not going to change it even if it is, but, you know, I hope it's not. Gotta love the music in this game. It's very peaceful, especially during these moments when we're just waiting for stuff to happen. Alright, we are finishing up the home and hearth. We get a new blueprint, which is the small trapper camp. A small, crude version of a specialized camp. We already went over that. It gets meat, insects, and eggs, which is good because we've got a source of meat right here. Now, these little creatures here, slick shells, you're not, like, fighting them. It's not combat. They just get gathered like any other resource. So when I put a trapper camp nearby, and I don't really have an ideal spot to put it, but that'll be fine, they'll start to just sort of harvest the meat there. We have a small encampment. We can send them to the Citadel to get some amber, which is the currency in the game. Or we can welcome them, and a couple of people join me. I think we're going to do that. We're going to send one lizard over there to say hi, invite them into the camp. And, like, we have a lot more farmland here that we could be using. As a side note, lizards happen to be very good at basically anything involving meat. So they get that bonus chance to get more resources. Which means I'm going to go ahead and reassign the other lizard. And as you can see, we're in the clearance, and everything is blooming. Looks like our order's done. We're going to pick up some fabric, some bricks, and some planks. That's nice. We don't have to make them ourselves. And it wants us to make a smokehouse. So this is what we're talking about when we say complex food. You can take the meat or other things that get gathered, and you can process them, take a little bit more time, and turn them into something like jerky, which specifically satisfies one of the lizard's food needs. And since I said we would take a look later on, let's go ahead and do that now. So there are 8 categories here that sort of determine whether or not they are in a good mood. Are they housed? Yes or no? Do they have housing that are specifically for them? And then each one has a different combination of foods. For lizards, it's jerky, skewers, pickled goods, and pie. For beavers, it's biscuits, and so on. They also have a service category. For the lizards, it's brawling and religion. And there are buildings that I can make to get those going. I now have the option to avoid glades, which you sometimes want to do because going into new glades does increase your hostility, which can end up being a problem. So in fact, I'm going to go ahead and select avoid glades, and I'm just going to let them sort of clear cut this whole area. Always try to put humans into the fields when possible. With the exception, I think there's actually one type of farm that beavers are best at. This is them fertilizing the ground. And harvesting the slick shells. That is a thumbnail right there. I'm just gonna take a quick snapshot. Okay, building a smokehouse. Grabbing a cornerstone. Once again, so grain bags is great. If you are going to have a game that is based around grain, increasing its production by +1 every 25 times it's produced will ramp up and give you a lot of grain at the end. But again, this is a tutorial, so I'm going to go ahead and go with efficient brewing so that we can get to our goal as quickly as possible. I did say overexplained, friends. It's right there in the thumbnail. Now you can see that the lizard actually has 2 icons on it this time. That's because every species not only has a thing that it's particularly proficient at, they also have a thing that makes them comfortable, that makes them happy, and gives them bonus resolve when they're in that job. So if you're ever short on resolve, you just want to make sure all the right people are in the right jobs, and that can sometimes boost morale at a critical moment. I believe it wants me to change it from jerky to meat. But again, you can either change it or you can have it do both. Whatever you want. And then I just need to make 20 of them. I don't actually have to build that, but I don't have anything better to do while I wait for jerky to be made. We have an event here. We can break it open for some reeds and bricks, or we can spend some tools to get some reputation and some amber. Let's do that. So these little crates are a type of event that essentially allow you to once again either choose between some goods or reputation. Orders ready to complete. What did we do? Oh yeah, we got the 20 jerky we needed. Excellent. Fantastic. It's going to give us some more barrels. Now we need to brew some ale. So we need to make a brewery, we need to enable barrels, and we need to make 20 ale. How convenient. We'll make that right away. Food. Your villagers need to eat in order to survive. Every few minutes they will go on a break, gather around the hearth, and try to get something edible from the warehouse. If nothing they like is available, like pickled goods for beavers, they will eat raw food. If there is no food whatsoever, villagers will get 1 stack of the hunger effect. Each stack works as a resolve penalty, and if the resolve of a species reaches 0, they will start leaving the settlement. Each species can only withstand a certain number of hunger stacks before dying of starvation. To see the exact number of stacks a species can survive, go to the species section in the encyclopedia and look for the hunger tolerance attribute. For example, a human has a hunger tolerance of 6, which means they will die after 7 breaks in a row without consuming any food. Even if you grow vegetables on your farms, the amount of food you produce will soon become insufficient for a growing population. The solution is to process raw food and thus multiply it, as most recipes yield more goods than the raw ingredients used to produce them. Some perks can further increase that ratio or even generate additional food as a byproduct. So both to get resolve and to keep people fed, you want to set up ways to make complex food. Hey, we've got another little cache over here. We'll send someone out there. Humans very much enjoy serving ale. Anything to do with booze, they love it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these 2 from the farm and replace them for a moment. Or at least replace one of them. When you put someone into a job they enjoy, there's this glow effect, which tells you that they're getting that resolve bonus from their job. We're switching this over to barrels, and we're making 20 ale in the brewery. And in fact, I'm going to drop this other human into the farm as well. There we go. Well, we were just talking about food, so we'll go ahead and grab the vegetables. I suspect it's not super important, especially since we're making so many vegetables. Now, you see these little stars here? They determine how efficient the process is. So a 1 star is much less efficient than a 3 stars. Efficiency means that they get made faster and using fewer ingredients. I'm sure the game will mention that at some point. We've made enough ale. Let's go ahead and deliver. We now need to make a tavern. So it's not enough just to make ale, okay? They won't consume it on their own. They have to have a place to do that. Services. Villagers fulfill their most basic needs, such as food or clothing, at the hearth, and need only the right goods to do so. However, there is a separate category of needs that require not only resources, but also a special type of building to fulfill them. These are called services. Services include things like leisure, luxury, or religion. To fulfill them, the villager will need a suitable service building, such as a tavern or a market. Once the appropriate building has been built, workers must be assigned to it. They will then take goods from the warehouse, bring them back to their workplace, and serve them to residents. Villagers don't have to physically go to a service building to fulfill their service needs. They will still rest at the hearth as usual, but for them to fulfill the need for leisure, a tavern must be present and operating somewhere in the settlement. So that's important. You don't have to put your tavern right next to your hearth, because they don't actually have to go to the tavern. Service buildings also offer unique passive bonuses. These are usually global positive effects that activate when a building has a certain number of employees. For example, having 3 workers assigned to the tavern increases resolve for all villagers in the settlement. However, passive service building bonuses don't stack, so building a second tavern will not double the effect. That's also important. You can't stack taverns, which is unfortunate. So we're going to grab that tavern blueprint. I made the lizard houses last time. I have the most humans. Let's go ahead and do the human house this time. Alright, we're going to start with the tavern. It just has to be somewhere within this area of effect. And that's not even true. I'm pretty sure it can be anywhere. But for reasons that we'll talk about later, it is good to have at least one nearby your main hearth. Same deal with the houses. The houses actually have to be within this range, or else they will not function as houses. And we'll make like a little avenue here for these houses. Now, this little icon here means that there aren't enough building materials to make the building. It'll stay there, and it will continue to be a plot until there are enough materials, and then it will get built. One thing you can do is you can prioritize which buildings you want them to go to first and last, essentially. So if I really want them to build this tavern right away, as soon as there's the materials, I set it up to top priority, which is 5. Trapper's camp needs to be moved to where there's meat. No problem. And now we begin to earn passive reputation because the lizards are having a pretty good time despite 7 of them being homeless. I should probably fix that. Let's choose a cornerstone first. Cannibalism. Gain 30 meat every time a villager dies or leaves. Look, it's morbid, but in certain circumstances, it definitely can be a lifesaver. We're going to go ahead and grab nets. And then let's also make some more shelters. That should be plenty, even if we bring in more people, which we are. I'm going to need the crude workstation, because what I'm missing are planks and fabric. To be honest, in most of my games, I build a crude workstation first thing. I'm not sure why I didn't this time around, but we're going to go ahead and make some planks and some fabric. There's a lot of things to track in this game. It's easy for some stuff to slip, so you will definitely be able to catch me making mistakes in these videos. And once again, if I want them right away, I can hit force delivery now. It'll get them there right away, and I can start building. And as soon as it goes away, someone comes up there, and then the building is constructed. Man, going back to 1x speed feels like slow motion after I spend all of my time in triple speed. Humans love serving booze, at least in this game. So now, every time someone rests, they will also get a leisure if that's a thing they're into. Makeshift post can make packs of crops, packs of provisions, and packs of building materials, which are often useful in orders. We'll go ahead and build one. We have newcomers waiting. Not super important. We've got our order done, which is super important. And that's the end of Tutorial Village 2. We've got a bunch of rewards to go through. We got up to level 2, so we gain new Citadel upgrades. We get the Rain Collector in our essential buildings, which is the buildings that we start with every single run. The Herbalist Camp is the advanced version of the small Herbalist Camp, and we'll discuss the difference between those probably in the next video. The Mine allows you to dig up copper and coal. And then these cornerstones are those things that I got at the end of every year. At the end of every year, I was asked to choose a cornerstone to improve my run. So I'm gaining a new option of that. Hostility from woodcutters is decreased by 4. Crowded houses means houses are bigger. And then rich glades mean that all of the deposits are a little bit, have a few more charges. We also got the Shelter, Small Trapper Camp, Herbalist Camp, Makeshift Post, Blight Post, which we'll talk about in another video, and Hydrant. I believe those are all essential buildings as well. And I believe it's going to whisk us away to the world map, which we will go into in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you then.